Birthday. We are going to take a look at the way I teach students how to play this song in their first month or so of playing the guitar, because all you need for what I'm going to call what we're calling the campfire version is 3 chords and a little bit of picking technique and a very little bit of strumming technique. So the strumming is just going to consist of down, down, up, down, up, down, up, what I call the basic rock strum. If I were to do that on an E chord, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. That's the whole middle part of the song. The ending part of the song is that same thing done over C's and G's. A measure of C and a measure of G. We'll get to that too as we break the whole thing down. But the first part of the song is just playing this very simple blues-based riff that's 8 notes long. One of the notes is longer than all the rest, actually 2 of them are, and there's a few beats of rest. So what I have people do when they're, again, beginning students, what I want them to learn with this is to make sure that their left hand is in second position, your first finger covering the 2nd fret. We're going to play some open notes. It's going to start with an A. You can take a look at the tablature and then, of course, have a chord chart with the words on it, too, if you'd like to sing it. It's a challenge to sing, but because they do it with 2-part harmony as a little of it, too, with Paul and John, of course, putting this all together. But when people start working on this riff, there are a bunch of things that are really, really important, tiny details that beginners sometimes overlook. One is, you're going to use a different finger for every fret. Your first finger is going to play the 2nd fret, your 2nd finger will play the 3rd fret, 3rd finger playing the 4th fret, and your 4th finger playing the 5th fret. So your hand's laid out in second position. First finger lined up at the 2nd fret, which is why we call it second position. So then your right hand has to alternate downs and ups every beat, a down on the beat part of it and an up on the and part of it, keeping a steady flow of 8th notes going that you'd be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Gotta remember to breathe when I'm doing this. So that little set of notes opens up with 6 consecutive 8th notes before there's a tie, which makes that 8th note worth 1 extra stroke, or another 8th note, and that means you're going to have a missing down in the picking. So the alternate picking, you're going to hit down on the 1st note, up on the 2nd, down on the 3rd, up on the 4th, down on the 5th, up on the 6th. Then you're going to have a missing down because of the tie in the music of the 2 F sharps that are right there on the 3rd, the and of beat 3 going on to beat 4. So the important part of that is that you hit an up on the F sharp, which is the note of the 4th fret, and then a missing down and another up on the E before you come back and hit the A in there. So this is, again, the beginner's exercise for this is to make sure that your right hand never stops. Now with your left hand, I want to make sure that you keep your fingers very close to the frets the whole time and spread out, ready in good hand position with your thumb down low on the neck so that you're not having trouble reaching like a note at the 5th fret with your little finger. So if you go into baseball bat position, you're going to have a really hard time getting your 4th finger to play that note at the 5th fret on the D string, the G that we have to play there. So good hand position, keep your thumb down a little bit lower on the neck, make sure there's a little space right underneath your hand, and then that your fingers are nice and arched, and you're using the tips of your fingers, keeping your left hand as close to the frets as possible. Down and up on the A, put your 3rd finger down on C sharp, and then add the E with your 1st finger, get the C sharp out of the way. Now, that E that we just put on and played as an up, leave it there, because we're going to need it soon. Add your 4th finger to the G, your 3rd finger to the F sharp, miss a down, and then another up on the E that is still down, and leave the E on while you hit that low A, and then stop the strings. That 2nd measure has 3 beats of rest in there. We don't want either of those notes to ring past the 1st beat. Is what it needs to sound like. As we're counting that, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. On beat 2 of the 2nd measure, use your left hand to kill the strings and keep your right hand moving at the same speed it was. This has to be your metronome for you. So that riff is 2 measures long, ending with the A that is the 1st note of the 2nd measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. It happens again. it shifts up to D, up to chord 4 in the key of A. And everything just moves one string higher, starting with the open 4th string. 2, 3, and then back to A. To E, 6th string open, low. And then back to A for the last one. Now again, if we were going to play chords in here, the chords that would go with these particular riffs are all 7th chords. So if you wanted to just strum the real campfire version where you're not even playing the riff, you would just strum an A7 chord while maybe somebody else is playing this. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Go to D7. Do, 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 do. But I never have anybody play it that way. I never have them play the chords in there. You want to play the riff and learn, make that riff something that is easy for you to play, because this will really carry over into much more complicated songs down the road. So the basic verse to Birthday is just this 12-measure section that really is 12-bar blues, and you can check some of my other lessons that talk about blues and all the other stuff for that, or the other videos that we have on this song here at Totally Guitars that include more of the lead parts. So again, I have a more extensive lesson available on this as part of the Target program at Totally Guitars. But again, this is the way I get beginners going with this. What we're going to do now is play through it with a metronome, because this is something else I really want, not even just my beginners, all of my students to get used to doing, is playing with a metronome. So we'll run through the 12 measures that have the riff happening. There's an 8-measure drum solo if you take a look at the music. We're going to skip that and go right into the strumming, where we're going to strum 8 measures of the E chord, followed by C and G 4 times, which is also 8 measures, and then 2 more measures of E. So that's what we have on the page. I'm just going to skip the drum solo that says 8 measures of that. So I've got the metronome set at 80 here. This is the way it's going to go. 2, 3, 4. Kill 'em. Same riff again. Shifting it to D. Back to A. Down to E. And the last time through on A. We get ready with our E chord for 8 measures. 2. This would be where they're singing we're going to the party line. 5, 6, 7, last measure to C for 1 measure, and to G. And keep that right hand moving. Back to C. 4 sets of these. That was the second one. Last time through. And then from this G, we go to an E chord for 2 measures. And then right back into our riff. And it just carries on like that. So those are the main little drills and exercises that I like students to work on in Birthday. The alternate picking of the riff, very simple strumming of the 3 chords, the E and the C and the G, and then just work on speeding that up. But really, don't let your right hand stop. I know I say this in every video, but especially when you're playing the riff. It's got to keep moving through, especially the second measure. Very often a student will come back after their first week of working on this, and it might sound something more like this. Not steady picking, Not in time, not consistent with the downs happening on the beats and the ups happening there, not waiting long enough when you play the last note, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to have all of that under control before you worry about speeding it up and trying to play along with the original recording. But that is the way I teach the campfire version of Birthday to my beginning students, and you really don't need to have been playing for very long to be able to get this down and have it help take you into much more complicated songs. So that is the campfire version of Birthday.